Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome everyone today, and as we were making our conversations in the previous day, that how a person is responsible for his own the adversity that occurred in his life, and when he takes the responsibility, the ownership of whatever appears in his life, then he starts making effort. He starts producing effort on his own part, from his own part, to reverse those conditions. And we discussed on this matter a lot in the previous class. And today, the verse that was describing this, the verse from where we deduced all those information, and the verse was Ramayanam nama paramam tu kavyam supunnidam vai shrunuta dujendraha yasmin shrute janma jaradinasho bhavati adoshaha sanaro achyutah syat. It was telling that a person becomes sinless whenever he is attached, he is connected to this type of this sort of knowledge. And we were also talking about a person physically needs food to maintain his health, physical health, the health of his body. The same way, a person also requires a certain sort of food for his feelings, for his emotions, for his heart. And what is that food? That is this knowledge, the scriptures, this vast scriptic knowledge, wisdom, whatever we could say it. And we tilted our conversation on responsibilities, whatever the adversities that appear in our lives. And when we understand, we take the ownership of our conditions that appear in our lives, then we become responsible for the upliftment of ours. Whenever we start believing that whatever downfall that appeared in our life, we are the responsible person for that thing, then only we become able. Then we start producing our effort to reverse that direction and uplift ourselves. So never point anyone else as responsible for wherever you are standing, for whatever this adversity, this unfavorable condition appeared in your life. And when we do that, we really uplift ourselves. Otherwise, if we just put others responsible for whatever the state, the condition is of our life, then what happens? The others won't do that. The others will not take any action on reversing the direction. Okay? So when we take our own ownership to uplift ourselves, the upliftment occurs in a real sense. So we should do that, and we should not leave our works or anything onto others. If we do that, then we'd have to depend on them. So one more thing, what happens when we have expectations from others? The one way to become happy in this world, if anyone asks, what is the one true sense, what is the one true way that we achieve happiness in this world? So the answer is only one sentence: give up expectations from anyone. Don't have expectations from anyone. And then you'll find yourself in an ocean of happiness. What happens that we expect so much from a person, from anyone surrounding us, from anyone in our relations or people around us, that we forget that if they don't fulfill that expectation, we would be in grave danger of feeling emotionally, would be in a grave danger, and we would collapse emotionally. So whenever we ought not to do anything that brings any kind of emotional danger on ourselves. And when we understand this truth, when we apply our knowledge, apply our wisdom to not to follow these rules, then whatever we do, whatever these conditions that appear in our life, just they come and go away. And we never get affected by those things. And never blame anyone. By blaming anyone, you can't get any condition favorable. You can't make unfavorable condition a favorable one by blaming someone, that it's his action that I am standing here, it's his not paying attention, it's his not doing duties well that I am here today. No, don't do that. Always put your attention on yourself. And when you do that, eventually, ultimately, you'll be a successful person, both in family, in all sorts of life, in all phases of life, in all spheres of life. You would become a better person, a healthier person, a happier person than before. And that was I was telling. Whenever we start connecting ourselves to ourselves, whenever we reverse the direction from outside to inside, when we follow ourselves, when we direct ourselves, what happens? That we put all the energies on our own work. Otherwise, all our energies go on blaming others, on disputing with others, on speaking, on censoring others. But when we start retracting to ourselves, then we start putting all our energies on ourselves, on our own work. And when we do so, our work becomes elevated, our work becomes good, our work becomes the best. And then this is the truth, this is the key of all the happiness, for all the happiness. Whenever we are working on ourselves, then whatever we do it in a better way. Because if we don't do that, who's gonna suffer the work? Only we. So when we do a work, maintaining a responsibility that whatever I do, I would suffer this, then whatever we do it the best way possible, and we taste the fruit of that work in a good sense, in a better way. And so I was talking about this thing. Whenever a person starts thinking it this way, that I am accountable for whatever this is around me, then what happens? Our own nature, our own tendencies start uplifting us. But when we don't do that, we just spend our times blaming others. We waste our times blaming others. And we could see from nature. This nature teaches us everything. This God has made everything on this earth. We people are the creation of God. And God has set rules in Vedas how to live, how to work, how to live your relationships, how to live your entire life on this planet. God has given us the rules. But do we see that every person follows that rules? No. And when every person doesn't follow those rules, those tenets, does God come up and hold his hands? No, he doesn't do that. The same way, you never impose what you want to do, what you want any person to do on him. You never impose your feelings, your emotions, your works, or anything on other people. Just tell them, just suggest them. It's their wish if they're gonna follow it or not, if they're gonna align with that work, with the feeling, with that emotion or not. Your work is to tell people. Your work is to direct people in a good path. Your work is to suggest people, advise people what is right and what is bad. But never conflict with anyone. Never get in conflicts. The same thing we could understand from God, that he has directed every rules and regulations in Vedas. But when people don't follow that, he never catches the hand of a thief. Because when he steals something, if God was just this imposer of his teachings, then he would have glued the thief's hand whenever he was stealing something, or made the person nonverbal when he was just criticizing someone out of enviousness and out of selfishness. But he never does this. Every person, every entity in this world has the right to work on its own way. And the fruit is not his part. The fruit is going to come, the work, accordingly to the work that he does. So there is no problem in that. Your work is to suggest people. Your work is to direct people on right path. And that's what we see in every sphere of this nature. Every part of this nature is teaching us something, but it never imposes its rules, its regulations, its tenets. It's work on people. So that's how we start making our lives. That's how we start building our lives. That people, we never get in conflicts. We never impose on people what we want them to do. We just tell them, we just suggest them, we just advise them what is right and what is wrong. And when people understand this, they'll eventually do the right thing. And when I say this, it's applicable for people, for adults, not for children. A 5-year-old child, a 6-year-old child who hasn't crossed his adolescence, their parents, father and mother, have the entire right to direct the child in the right direction, and even scold him or order him, impose their teachings on him. There is the rules and regulations on him. But once he becomes adult, then develop a friendly relationship with their kids, with their children, with their boys and girls. And that's how the family works, the family system works. Acharya Chanakya also said this thing, that you, before adolescence, you give the child the hardest treatment. You treat your child the hardest way possible, but after he becomes adult, after he crosses his adolescent years, then develop a friendly relationship with your child, with her kid, with her son and daughter. That's how families work. That's how the society works. That's how this community works. That's how this world, entire system works. Without imposing anything on people, God is maintaining balance in this nature. It is the way of nature that it balances everything in it. And we people, as element of this nature, we have the work to do the same thing that God does, to follow His rules, to follow the path that God tries to move us on, to walk on the same path that God is moving on. Because we are the creation of Him. And if we don't follow His rules, who else will? All right? So we have the responsibility to follow His rules. And His rules say that never become an imposer, never get in conflicts, just suggest people, advise people in a happier sense, in a good manner that people understand you. Maintain a cordial relationship with people in society, in your community. And that's how you can change this world. There's a great saying that there were two people who tried to change this world. One was Napoleon and another was Helen Keller. Napoleon tried to change this world by conflicts and he failed. Helen Keller did it through love and she succeeded. This is the truth of love, and this is the truth of conflicts, of wars. Wars never bring peace in society. You can win the war, but you cannot win peace. The same way, when you maintain an amicable relationship with people, with nature, with all creatures in the society, then you become the winner and the person who follows you also becomes the winner. Both sides are winners. The one who defeated, the one who gets defeated. But in war, the opposite happens. Neither of the sides feel contentment. Neither of the sides feel happier. War brings devastation. And this war of feelings, war of emotions, conflict of emotions, conflict of feelings, of thought processes, never brings stability in society, in community. It always brings hatred in society. It always brings instability in society. So always refrain yourselves from any conflicts, whether it be emotional, whether it be spiritual, whether it be any way, any sort of feeling. So never get into conflicts. Help people raise them in a friendly manner, in a good manner. Maintain, never shatter the sociable relationship with people. All right? So this way, it could really influence people. If you want your life to be influencing people, then try this thing. Never get into conflicts. Just maintain this good relationships with people, with all people. Then you'd see this world is not that bad. Any part of this world, every person has humanity in him. Some person's humanity, some person's nature, good feelings are clouded by dirtiness. And that gets removed, that gets wiped away when this broom of good feelings, when this ointment of good feeling, friendly behavior is applied on him, his true nature sparks up. His true nature of humanity, of oneness, of brotherhood, of harmony pops up. An alcoholic person never wants his son to be an alcoholic. Why? He's an alcoholic. A thief never wants his son to turn into a thief. A robber never wants a son to turn into a robber. Why? Because it's not the true nature of a human being. Human being's true nature is to remain a human being, to remain a good person, to remain surrounded by the feelings of brotherhood, coexistence, oneness, harmony. This is the true nature of human. Every human has this nature in himself. But the truth is, it is enveloped by all sorts of bad works that we did in our lives. And when that encasement, when that filament gets shredded away, when that substrate is removed from human life, from human feelings, then our true nature, our real nature pops up. And it can only be done by love, by peace, by coexistence, by understanding the feeling of others and never imposing. It doesn't matter whether your feelings are good or bad. If you have good feelings for people, never become an imposer. Just help them, just advise them, just suggest them. And you work in a well manner. And watching your life, watching your behavior, and how it affects people, watching this nature, watching this society, living in a good relationship with you, even the worst person would also turn. Even the worst person would also start trying that this person is a good person. He lives well in a well manner. I should also try it. This is the way. Help people in a lovely manner. Help people in a peaceful manner. And so you'll achieve contentment in yourselves, and also the people would start following you, understanding you, behaving the way you wanted them to behave. And that's how. Because anyone, whatever we say people don't understand whatever we say them. People understand what they see around them. It's a grave matter, it's a serious matter. Parents want their children to be good people, but if parents are fighting among themselves, children will never seek their advices. They'll process their works. So is the responsibility of the parents even, of great people even, of elder people to behave in a good way. Whatever advice you give to your younger ones, anyone, is not going to work unless you are acting the same way that you advise people to be. So that's how you could change anyone when you have developed good relationships, good behaviors, a healthy behavior in your life. And while I was talking about this behavior, I am tilting myself towards this Gurukul process. What is Acharya? What is this word? What does this word mean, Acharya? In Gurukuls, there are no teachers. There are Acharyas. Acharya kasmat acharanat. He not only gives knowledge by speech, he not only gives academic knowledge to his students, to his pupils, he gives knowledge by his own actions, acharanat. That is the true meaning of Acharya. And when his pupils and his disciples see him acting in a true manner that is written in scriptures, then they understand that yes, this knowledge, this advice, this feeling, this behavior is worth doing. That's how he eradicates, he diminishes all sorts of ignorances from his disciples' minds. And this is how he turns their life from an ignorant person to a knowledgeable person, to a person who has wisdom in it. This was the right matter of Gurukul. That's what the heritage, that's what the legacy of India was. India was greater not by any material power, not by any materialistic power. It was greater nation by its heritage of knowledge, by its legacy of wisdom, divine knowledge, divine behaviors, good behaviors, divine approach to knowledge. And the root of that thing was Gurukul. And we talk more about this system, how it helps society. It's not only one place which is constrained. It's not only one constrained place where people come and gain knowledge. It has its effect on entire society. The system, this Gurukul system, it has its grave impact in entire society in a well manner. And how it works, we discuss this in the next class, in the next conversation. And today we discuss about how we could become the person, how we could become a happier person. And what was the root of that? Living the life without any expectations. Living the life taking the responsibility of your works, of your deeds, of your behaviors. Whatever it comes on our lives, the first ownership should be ours. And that's how we could become a happier person in ourselves. And when we become a happier person in ourselves, then ultimately we could make this world a happier place. That's how we change the world. We could change the world, and we could change the minds of people in a well manner. So that was the conversation of today. And we discuss the rest conversation in the next class. Thank you. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.